Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's live Tuesdays at 2. I am your host, Antoinette LaGrossa. For those of you new to homeschooling or Schiller Learning, we are part of the nonprofit Rising Stars Foundation. And our goal is to help students of all budgets and abilities to be able to get the benefits of a personalized Montessori-based education in order to maximize their potential. If you like homeschooling tips in general or a Montessori-based approach in particular, and you don't have to be doing, full on Montessori homeschooling to get the benefit of incorporating those techniques and methods into your homeschool program. But be sure to hit the subscribe button on our Schiller Learning YouTube channel so that you do not miss any of the replays of Tuesdays at 2 or any of Larry Schiller's life-changing sessions. Today, we are talking about providing students in 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade through pre-algebra a solid math foundation that's going to ensure success with higher math. This is a live session, so if you see me pausing, we do take questions. If you have any of those during the presentation, just pop those into the chat box. And so I may pause in order to read those. If you'd like to go ahead and give us a shout out in that chat box, just say hello and let us know where you are from. If you're new to Schiller Learning or homeschooling, we always like to see who is new to this whole endeavor and be here to support you in every way possible. So be sure, if you do have a question, put that in the chat box. And we have Chrissy from Birmingham. Hi, Chrissy. I love Birmingham. I have visited there some years ago working at one of the homeschool conventions. It was a beautiful place. Okay, so Math Kit 2 is what we're going to be looking at. And for this, again, it covers 4th grade all the way through pre-algebra. The Schiller Learning curricula is skill-based. So if you have a child who is 7 years old and age-wise in 1st grade, but has mastered multiplication and division, being able to do that into the 4 digits, that's what's going to be covered in that Math Kit 1. That's for pre-K through 3rd. But if you have a child younger than 4th grade who has achieved all of those skills, it is the right place to go ahead and place them into Math Kit 2. Conversely, if you have a child who is 9th grade, but not ready for Algebra 1, they don't have those foundational pieces yet to be successful, then Math Kit 2 is going to be a fabulous way of efficiently finding and filling all of those gaps in those middle years to be able to get that success with the higher math. And hello, we've got Edmond, Oklahoma, another place I absolutely love. That is one of the many benefits of having represented Schiller Learning over the years is I have gotten to see most of the country and Illinois. I got caught in Illinois and stranded in the airport because of a tornado. Mississippi and Ontario. That is one place I have not made it to uh, Canada. I hope to do that very soon. So, welcome everyone. And also, a young child on the spectrum. The Montessori method was specifically designed for working with children with special needs. So, all of the techniques and materials that we're going to look at make fabulous support for children on the spectrum, as well as dyslexia and dyscalculia. Okay, so Math Kit 2 is covering that fourth all the way through pre-algebra. We do have two different options available for you with Math Kit 2. First off, there's the physical kit, and most people do choose that. It has all of your printed books, the audio CD, physical manipulatives, everything you see on your screen there, as well as all of your downloadable content so that you're able to print consumables for additional children. And also, even for that first child that you're working with, and if when they need a shot, another shot at an activity that was a consumable, you are able to print a replacement of that for them. And if you already have the materials, you love ebooks, we also have a digital option for you. And with that, you're getting the PDFs of all of the books, as well as printable manipulatives and the downloads of the songs. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So thank you. Okay, so FedEx drops the box at your doorstep and you excitedly pull it inside. The first thing that you are going to find is a thank you and welcome letter along with a gift cookie for either you and your child to enjoy because it is a 2-pack, or for you to stash away and enjoy after the kids go to bed. Underneath of that, you are going to find a 3-ring binder. This binder is going to have an important component for you, and right off the bat in the front, you will see those tracking sheets. These are important um, because we don't give you a lesson plan that says, oh, it's the 20th day of school. Jane is going to do XYZ today. And that's because it's going to be different for every child. That's one of the reasons that we homeschool, is so that we can personalize the pace through the curriculum and the repetition so that we're able to meet our child exactly where they're at, identify what their needs are, and then give them developmentally appropriate tools as well as lessons to advance them in their, in this case, math skills. And so with this tracking sheet, let's go ahead and go over how this works before we dive into the rest of it, since it is right here. We recommend starting with 15 minutes a day for a 4-year-old. And I'm starting at that beginning recommendation because we actually have had some kids go through the curriculum pretty quickly. None of mine did that, and I have used it with all 5 of my children, but we've had relatively young kids getting into Math Kit 2. So starting with 15 minutes a day for a 4-year-old, adding 5 minutes a day for each year of age after that. And then there's a spot here you can jot in the date, how many minutes are worked, up to about 45 minutes to an hour for the older kids. And then here is that list of lessons that is successfully completed. They did it, they got it. They are good on that skill. Very important column, lessons to be revisited, so that when a student isn't solid on that skill, we're going to simply make note of that here continue on to other things because we don't want to bore or frustrate. So, unless your child wants to stay on that one thing, which if they have that internal motivation, that's absolutely wonderful. Go ahead and do that. If that's not coming from them, go ahead, move on to other things, but then periodically, maybe every 2 or 3 days, we're going to add that back to the math work until it is mastered. And then there are also columns for the student as well as the educator to go ahead and initial that work. And it's helping to develop self accountability for the child. And when you're first using the curriculum, you can guide the child through using the tracking sheet. But ultimately, we want every child to become responsible, take ownership of their education, because the sooner they're able to identify when they have truly mastered something versus when that is a skill that they would need to continue to practice in order to master that, the better student they're going to be in everything. So this may look like, oh, it's just a simple sheet of paper. I don't need to pay much attention to this. Don't be tempted to skip that. This is a really important tool. And the parent guide does tell you a bit more, about the the time to spend. And here you are also going to find a variety of printed sheets. There's graph sheets, graph paper. There's a number of those. We are having the student do much of their calculations on the graph paper. Really helps to promote those good work habits where the student is having neat work that they are able to go back and self-check and walk you through their process, because we do want students correcting mistakes for themselves. We do have some resources that help you do that. There's also a number of the table division sheets, and all of the sheets that are in here, they have a variety of uses. The lesson book, which is scripted, there's zero lesson prep, will tell you exactly when to use one of those and what to do with it. And then you have the degreed circle sheets as well. So you've got a binder. This is going to be handy also if you are going to be uh, using the personal lesson plan builder, which we'll talk about. It's really an exciting feature that makes it incredibly easy for everyone to create a personalized curriculum for their child. Okay, so we've now gotten the cookie out of the box, we've got our binder, and then there is going to be a box with manipulatives in it. Okay, this is the box that the kids are going to absolutely love to open and pull these things out and start looking at those. Okay, so one of the first things that you will see is the box of the shape nets, which you see up on display behind me. And what these are, it's a two-dimensional representation of the surface area of a 3D shape. And the kids are also going to be able to, uh, construct the three-dimensional shapes and see that surface area in a way that is more concrete and easier to understand than simply looking at a three-dimensional shape. That is one of the reasons that the Montessori method is so successful for students of all abilities, is that it introduces everything in the concrete before gracefully transitioning the child to the abstract. Now, um, if you are, by the way, working with more than one student, you can print additional copies of these from your customer downloads, whether you have the digital Math Kit 2 or the physical Math Kit 2, you have the ability to print additional copies of those. Do just recommend to print those on a nice, heavier weight paper, not one of the super thin ones. You could print it on colored paper or simply have the shapes print in color. So either way, you can do that. But that's one of the many ways that things are going to be introduced in the concrete and then gracefully transition to the abstract. Another thing that you'll be getting are 100 unit cubes. And you may have your unit cubes from Math Kit 1. That's excellent. What we found is that a lot of customers, by the time they got to Math Kit 2, they no longer had 100 unit cubes. And so we now include that pack in here. So if your child did not go through Math Kit 2, will it be okay to use Math Kit 2? Math Kit 1, excuse me. If your child did not go through Math Kit 1, is it okay to use Math Kit 2? Absolutely. And we do actually get a lot of students transitioning into Math Kit 2 because they start to struggle with the math curriculum they're already using, or transitioning out of school and into homeschooling. We do have a couple of tools available to you to see if your child is ready for Math Kit 2. First off, you can call and talk to a representative and discuss what your child has been doing, what curriculum they've been using, what skills they're good at, where their challenges are, and we can help you with that. Amanda, if you are able, if you could just plug that toll-free number into the chat. So you have access to a representative, and all of the representatives that you speak to at 888-556-6284 are people who have used the curriculum with their own kids. And that can make a big difference because sometimes, there's the theoretical way that things are going to work, and that in meetings and great ideas are come up with. But unless you actually have an experience with both one-on-one as well as group instruction using a program, you just don't have the full understanding of how it actually works. So I think it's really nice. I know I found that helpful back in 2004 when I first discovered Schiller Learning, to be able to talk to people who had that personal experience. The other thing is that Schiller Learning has diagnostic testing, which we're going to take a look at in the books in just a moment. And with that testing, we're able to say, okay, your child is in the age and pretty much skill level of Math Kit 2, but we also want to ensure that there aren't any gaps from earlier on that'll sabotage tomorrow's success. And so we can actually um, give you diagnostic testing from those earlier levels, and you have the ability of creating a personalized learning plan so that maybe you have a child who needs only 19 lessons out of Math Kit 1. We have an option where you can actually purchase that personal learning plan with those 19 lessons for just $19. So we have a lot of really unique features to the curriculum that will ensure success for everyone. Okay, so some more things in that manipulative box. Thank you for that question. Next is going to be the clock. So if your child reads digital clocks all day long and does not know how to tell time on an analog clock, this is going to be a great tool for that. And the minute hand indeed moves around. As it moves, the hour hand also moves. It's geared, so it moves just like a real clock. So it's also a lot easier to use. Math Kit 2 in Lesson Book 4 does start off with a review of time and building on those skills. In that manipulative box, you will also find the Math Kit 2 audio CD, 25 songs. They are not quite as corny as the music that you had in Math Kit 1. The Math Kit 2 music does transition to a little more of a rock beat to account for the changing music tastes of children. You can listen to samples of the audio CD on ShillerLearning.com. If you go to the Math Kit 2 page, you'll be able to find samples of lessons from all of the books as well as the music. Now, my personal favorite song from the Math Kit 2 audio CD is the song for the Pythagorean theorem. When I heard that one, I thought, when I was a kid, this would have definitely been handy for me when I was going through school. Okay. Another material that you're going to pull out of that manipulative box are the decimal fraction chips. And I love that the boxes now have lids so that all of those little things stay exactly where you want them to until the next time you are ready to use them. And I am going to just grab this so that you can see that there. Oh, and there is a little bit of a glare on there. So decimal fraction chips, these are a great tool for learning decimals and how they relate to fractions. So you've got the fraction on one side, and on the reverse, the corresponding decimal. That corresponding decimal also has that placeholder 0. With that placeholder 0, it makes so much more sense. A lot of kids struggle with the fact that that is a tenth. It doesn't look like a tenth, and that does not look like a hundredth, and that does not look like a thousandth. You can see by adding that simple placeholder 0 that the decimal now mirrors the denominator of the fraction that corresponds with that decimal. And you get a number of those. And again, the book is going to tell you, when to pull that out, exactly what to say in quotes, and what to do with it. You will also be getting the set of 14 geometric shapes. And you may sometimes see pictures online of this set that are all in blue, and just beware that that is an older version of Math Kit 2. At one time, some years ago, the shapes were all blue. If you happen to purchase a pre-owned kit, ShillerLearning does sell some pre-owned kits from our website as they become available. We are a nonprofit, so you are actually able to donate back pre-owned kits. We use those in a number of ways, but that shape set, and I do have them here in a wooden tray that I have displaying things on shelving, open shelving in wooden trays is a Montessori technique that is used to help to encourage kids to choose their work. We have on our YouTube channel a video talking about setting your classroom up in a Montessori style and some of the things that you can do for that. The wooden trays are absolutely one of my favorites. A lot of our materials come in their own wooden trays. But with that, your child can simply pick that material up off the shelf and very easily carry it to the workspace, return all the materials to that, and replace it on the shelf. It does make it easier for the child to both get things that they would like to work with, as well as return everything exactly where it needs to be and keeping their workspace neater. Okay. Uh, Now, what they're going to do with these shapes is work on obvious use 3D geometry. They also open. You'll see there is a little plug there that comes out, and the base also detaches from the shape. You can see the base comes off, the plug comes off, and then they can fill those with water. So for example, let's say that we were going to calculate the volume of the cube here, and we can take some water and fill that up. And then we're going to take our 1 cup measure. Now, Kit 2 does use some materials that are supplied by the educator. Measuring cups is one of those. You probably already have measuring cups somewhere around your house. If you had Math Kit 1, you also have measuring cups from that you can use in the Math Kit 2 activity. So we fill this with water, and our goal is to fill this up to exactly 1 cup. So let's say, for example, say it takes 7 times to fill this, to pour that into there. And exactly 1 cup is going to be 235 milliliters. And then there's a little bit of water left in here. So we get out some measuring spoons. Measuring spoons are another one of those household materials that are going to be supplied by the educator. I love my heart-shaped measuring spoons that were from one of my niece's weddings. And so Math Kit 2 is even more hands-on than what you are seeing when you're looking at that picture with the manipulatives. And so let's say we had enough left to fill the teaspoon exactly twice, which would be 5 milliliters each time. So we've got the 235 milliliters from the cup plus the 10 milliliters from the teaspoons, which means 7 cubefuls is 245 milliliters. Then they're going to go ahead and do division and figure out that, okay, so this holds exactly 35 milliliters of water. And they will do that activity as well as others with all 14 of the geometric shapes. Okay, another manipulative that you are going to have in that box is the clear ruler. Very convenient. If your child has never used a clear ruler, it is just going to make everything so much easier in measurement. Okay, some of the other household materials, things you probably already have around the house that are going to be supplied by the educator, are things like a tape measure, playing cards, Post-it notes, those measuring cups that we looked at, the measuring spoons, some string that'll be used in a variety of ways, and a protractor and a drawing compass, as well as a directional compass. Now, my son is all packed up for summer camp, so our directional compass is actually packed, but it's just, a compass that shows north, south, east, and west. Directions, there are a lot of life skills included in the Schiller Learning curriculum. So, one of the things that they'll do when working on learning charts and graphs is to learn how to read train schedules. They will learn directions, which is an important skill. They do need it in math, and it's going to help them in a number of ways. And it is fun when you are working on directions to use an actual working directional compass. Kitchen scale, it can be any format. I have one like this. I also have a digital kitchen scale, and depending on the child, they'll choose a different one. You probably have a basic calculator, and one of the other materials that will be used is an orange. So we looked at those shape nets. Well, your child is going to create their own shape net for a sphere by taking an orange and scoring that, peeling it, laying that peel out flat, and then, of course, you have a wonderful snack to go along with your math work for the day. Yes, there is a complete list of the things that you would be providing, the stuff that you already have around the house. It is on the ShillerLearning.com website under the description for Math Kit II. It is also in the packing list and the catalog, I believe, as well. So it is in a few different places that you'll be able to see that. And we do recommend that you just assemble all of those things in the beginning so that when your child gets to a lesson and playing cards are used, this is actually, aside from the orange, I like that activity a lot. But the playing cards are really one of my favorite materials that are used along with Math Kit 2, aside from, the manipulatives that we're supplying. So one of my favorite household materials. Okay, so there are all of the manipulatives, and that brings us to the nice heavy book box. And this is heavy. You have a lot of stuff in this box. First thing that you pull out is your parent guide. Again, just like that tracking sheet, that's right in the front of your binder because it's so simple. Sometimes people overlook it. Our parent guide is very thin. It is a simple 16-page booklet that gives you best practices to help you get the most out of the curriculum. Do not be tempted to skip reading this, but once you read this, there is nothing you need to do in advance of a lesson. It's all going to be open and go scripted for you. Paired with that parent guide, there is a letter from Larry Schiller that gives you some additional insight on the three outcomes of a lesson and those different combinations of what can happen with competency and closure. Larry has a fabulous multi-part video series, and they're short videos on the Schiller Learning YouTube channel. I highly recommend that to everyone, even if you're not using Schiller Learning curriculum. Those videos are going to help give you insight into how children learn and how you can personalize your curriculum, even if it's not set up, and specifically geared to that, the way that Schiller Learning curricula is. So, competency and closure, three outcomes of the lesson, give you some additional, richer understanding of that and how that works. And then we start with Math Book 4. You'll see the book is nice and thick. It is beautifully printed. And I can't believe I just flipped through to one of the lessons that I wanted to show you, because this in particular, but I'm not going to dive into that right now, is one of those lessons that when I was first going through it with my child, this was a concept that I could always just easily do, but I never really understood what was happening behind that, and that geometric application that is there with it. Okay, so you've got lesson book 4, answer guide 4. So you do have separate printed answer guides. This simply has answers. All of the teaching, all of your scripting, all of the student parts, it's all in the lesson book. So you're not having to look to another manual for anything additional. And you can see that you open up and it is going to tell you exactly what to say in quotes. It'll also let you know if you're using a manipulative. Now, with this scripting that's designed for either you as the parent to open and go without having to know anything about math and without having to do any lesson preparation, you can just open up and read. That also means that once your student is an independent reader, they're able to transition to self-study. So an awesome structure to the curriculum that's going to help maximize a student's independence once they are able, to do that. We do, recommend, even if your child is an independent reader when they're first starting, just work with them for maybe the first week, just to ensure that they understand using those tracking sheets and being sure that they're recognizing when they understand something versus when it's something that they need to continue to practice in order to master. And with that structure, by the way, if your child has a natural math aptitude and is gifted in math, they are going to move through this curriculum at an accelerated pace. Conversely, when they do need additional time and repetition in order to master something, they're going to be afforded that. It's, I like to call it the Goldilocks zone of repetition. It's not too much, because if you have too much, you bore and frustrate the child and teach them to not like math. And if it's too little and you're moving on before a child is able to master a skill, well, now you're frustrating them simply in a different way. You're setting them up for future failure. And again, teaching them to not like math. So, we can help every student realize they are indeed a math person, but maybe math just hasn't been taught to them in a way that they were able to receive it. So we want to change that for everyone. Okay, so you've got that scripting. Now, that first page, I'll just quick show you the other books. So you have Math Book 4, Math Book 5, and then, of course, the answer guide for Math Book 5, as well as Lesson Book 6. That is going to take you all the way through pre-algebra, not necessarily sixth grade. What grade that's going to be varies from child to child. And then you have your answer guide for book 6 also. And with all of that out of there, that box is, almost 8 pounds lighter than it was before I took everything out of there. Okay, you'll notice in the front of your lesson books, there is a quick start guide. With this quick start guide, it gives you uh, a couple of pointers. One of those is that important the time to spend. Um, but there's also that chart. And the chart that you're seeing here is showing you where to find the 4 diagnostic tests that are located in this book. There are 4 diagnostic tests in each of those 3 lesson books. Now, Montessori does not assign grade level, so you may have noticed that, wait a second, I said that this covers, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grades. That's 5 years. I only showed you 3 books. And that is because we want the student to simply move through as they master the material without worrying about grade level. Mastery of the material is what is going to set the student up for success in higher math. And it's not necessarily going to take every student 5 years to go through that material. It could be 3 or 4 just as easily as it could be the 5. So now, if your student already has some of the knowledge from this book, maybe they've already gone through a 4th grade math program, or maybe they're even 7th or 8th grade, we still want to start that older child in the beginning of book 4, but just not at the first lesson because we don't want to bore them to death with a review of time and multiplication and division if they don't need that. But there may also be some more advanced concepts in that first section that your student either didn't retain or that their curriculum never introduced them to. So we simply start them at that first diagnostic test. That's going to ensure that, okay, they have all of this material. And each one of the tests in here is comprehensive. It covers not just a sampling, but everything from that first section. And so you see it's got some time, multiplication and division, some Greek for geometric terms, and then some things like set notation and strings that a lot of kids aren't introduced to until later in a program. And it does go on. It is a multi-page test. Your child does not necessarily have to finish it in a single session. So they can finish it in multiple days. Although for most older students, they are going to be able to just go ahead and do that in one seating. Okay, and then in the answer guide for each question, so let's say your child gets everything right. Great, good job. That means we don't need to bore them with any of the stuff from that first section. But let's say they got 4 questions wrong. Well, you just spotted some of those crucial holes in their math foundation that could indeed sabotage their success. So we want to go ahead and fill those holes even before going to that second test in book 4. So in your answer guide, you'll see that for each question, it is giving you the list of lessons that teach the concept for that question. But we also have this amazing tool on our website. It is the lesson plan builder. So if you've already purchased your kit, you can just log in and right in your downloads page under the educator helpers section, there is a link for the lesson plan builder. You can get to it through there. You can also get to it through our free stuff. tab as well. And you can use this also if you're using the diagnostic testing to figure out what your child would need in advance of making a purchase. Again, the diagnostic testing is available individually, even outside of the kit. And then with that lesson plan builder, you just check off the questions your child has answered incorrectly. And not only will the Schiller Learning uh, system give you the exact list of lessons your child needs in numeric order with the lesson number, the lesson name, uh, which you'll be able to print out that list, put it in their binder, so they have that personalized curriculum. But it will also create a brand new PDF file that has only the lessons that your child needs, which I find especially handy when you're placing an older student and just filling a few gaps in book four and then going to be using it the entire book with a younger child later on. That means you very conveniently and easily have exactly what that older student needs and can easily print that. Again, all of our kits are one and done purchases so that you can work with all of your children without having to buy additional uh, consumables. We do, of course, have those available for you if that is your preference. You can buy extra books. But the lesson plan builder is just incredibly so convenient and easy in that it creates that uh, file of exactly your child's personalized curriculum. So building a lesson plan of just consumable lessons, it does the lesson plan does include all of them. You wouldn't necessarily have to print all of them. You could simply print just the pages that are consumable, but especially when you're working with older children who are able to read independently, having that learning plan, because they could simply open the PDF on a computer and read the instruction from there for those lessons that are not consumable. But we do find that it is convenient for most people to have indeed all of those. Also, if you are purchasing just a personalized learning plan, there is that option as well. That way, that learning plan indeed has everything. But from that customized PDF, you can choose what you print. You don't have to print the entire thing. It can be just the consumables that you print. And if you need help using the print dialog box for being able to print, page ranges, just call our toll-free number and we'll be happy to help with that. Being able to print targeted pages also. Okay, so you can use that lesson plan builder, fill in those gaps from that first test. Of course, record all of your work on your tracking sheets in your binder. And then you're simply going to go to the next test, see what that one tells you to do, and keep going until you find that, okay, my child is needing most of the lessons in this section. Then go ahead, do those, fill in those gaps. But now, instead of jumping to the next lesson in the book, you're just turning to the next page to that next lesson. You found their comfy spot where they're going to start working from lesson to lesson on a daily basis. Okay, and then the curriculum is multi-sensory. So as I mentioned, it's introducing everything in the concrete, gracefully transitioning the child to the abstract. And in doing so, it is using all four learning modalities. So no matter what your child's dominant learning style, you know it's going to work for them. You've got that visual, tactile, auditory, and kinesthetic used to teach every concept. And so you'll see throughout the lessons that it is using all of those. That structure also helps to keep your child more interested and engaged scientifically. It's helping to hardwire those concepts faster. The fringe benefit for the child is it's a whole lot more fun and engaging. Your child may actually ask to do math, and they could actually ask to do math on a weekend when they are not even being asked to do math. We've had multiple customers write in and share that experience. Like my formerly math averse child has just requested math and it's a weekend. So great experience. And it also it doesn't give a formula and then explain the formula, then ask the child to use it. With Schiller Learning, they understand the formula, why it works the way it does. They see it from the inside out before they actually ever see the formula. And then the formula is now representing a shortcut to the child. And we all love shortcuts. As adults, we all do. And certainly as a child, you hand them a shortcut that makes math easier, and they will all fall in love with that. A great example of that is with the distributive law. And this is that thing I mentioned earlier where I simply never realized that there was a visual way that this could be understood and that there was a geometric application. I'm one of those people that was an algebra person and severely disliked geometry. You hear that a lot. You're either one or the other. One of the reasons for that may be that people generally relate to mathematics in one of two ways, either through geometry or through arithmetic. And one of the things you'll see is that geometry is included throughout the Schiller Learning curricula. That's really important because if your child is one of those kids who relates to math through geometry and your program isn't including it on a regular basis, they may mistakenly believe that they are simply not a math person. And pretty much every program includes arithmetic on a regular basis, but not all do include geometry. So you want to be sure to do that. If your curriculum is not including geometry on a regular basis, fill that in. Those geometric shapes, those are, everything's available individually, but that's one of those materials that a lot of people will supplement other programs with. But this takes the distributive law and breaks it down step by step into this incredible visual geometric representation of that. And so that was one of those things that just, it was that wow, mind exploding moment when I was going through that with my first child. That just reinforced because we had started with Math Kit 1. That was what we initially fell in love with. And definitely those aha incredible moments continue all throughout Math Kit 2. Again, it does take you through books 4, 5, and 6. One of the things that you may want to consider adding, and for most kids who are starting at the beginning of Math Kit 2, just make sure. One of the other things you may want to consider adding is the fractions kit. It does cover, take you from a basic introduction of what a fraction is to advanced fractions that they would be using with pre-algebra. And it even in the fractions book does tell you to stop when you get to lesson 140 in the fractions book. It tells you to stop and not go any further until you reach a certain lesson in book 6 where you're doing some prime factoring. Aside from that, the fractions kit is self-paced. But by time they are finished with lesson book 6, they will be able to look at charts and tell you whether or not that these represent functions, and they will also be graphing linear equations. So they are indeed going to be well prepared for any high school level Algebra 1, as well as well prepared for that high school geometry. So that brings us to the end of our Math Kit II walkthrough. I hope you have indeed found this helpful, whether you are shopping for a math solution or you just got your Math Kit II and are about to get started. We did cover some questions in the session, and it looks like we did get to everything. So if anyone has any other questions, go ahead and pop those into the chat. And it does not necessarily have to be on Math Kit 2. Be sure, if you are watching the replay, hit that subscribe button on the Schiller Learning YouTube channel so that you don't miss any of these. Also, if you have any questions, would like assistance of a representative, there is that toll-free number, 888-556-6284. You can also reach out to us at support@ShillerLearning.com. Okay, excellent. And so you, Courtney, you are about to start book 6. Yeah, so it is, it's going to cover pre-algebra for you. So when you are finished with book 6, you can simply move on to algebra 1, which, yeah, when we moved from Schiller into Algebra 1, I heard a lot of, in the beginning of the algebra course, like, oh, I already know this, I already know this. And is going through the notebook a lot. Oh, yes, absolutely. Is it okay for a 7th grader to be going through the lesson book on her own, or do you need to be presenting each lesson? Absolutely. It is awesome for her to be going through that on her own. And I can tell you that I know the lessons in Math Kit 1 really well because, as I mentioned, I've used the curriculum with all 5 of my children, and a lot of those you work with them, and sometimes kids are independent readers. You may not work through all of them with all of the kids, but I had done pretty much just about every one of those lessons with one of them. Having used this since 2004, now Math Kit 2, we started in after we finished with that first one, but there are still lessons, and I do customer support also. So there are still lessons in those 3 books that none of my children have had a question on, and no customer's child has had a question on. And so I've not had to look at. So absolutely, your child, if they are an independent reader, can go ahead and move through these 3 books on their own. There will be some activities that require interaction, some probability, and things of that nature where it really does require interaction. But when your child gets to one of those, they're just going to come and get you and let you know, like, okay, I need you for this. Or if they have a question, they can just come and let you know. They can absolutely be self-checking with that answer key as they go along. And then with that diagnostic testing, that's going to catch when your child does not practice a skill enough in order to master it. So the testing, our goal with the test is that every child achieves 100% mastery of all of those topics so that they're going to be it's as successful as possible with higher math. And we have a number of programs for Algebra 1 that work well. And depending on what your student wants to do after high school, we can help with that. Okay, and looking at the website, when I look at, say, Math Kit 1, there is a basic, digital, and manipulative. Those one of them contain everything. Yes. The Math Kit 1, that there's no other designation after the name, is the full Math Kit 1 that has everything. And you'll in the description, you'll see that list of things. So when you go to Math Kit 1, there'll be three variants or three options for that. Math Kit 1, Math Kit 1 Basic, which has all of the printed material, but not all of the manipulatives. It does have some. And then Math Kit 1 Digital is there's nothing shipped. It's all, PDFs or MP3 files that you're downloading. And there are some printable manipulatives, and then you can also supply some of those materials yourself. For Math Kit 2, there's simply two options for that. There's a Math Kit 2 and then the Math Kit 2 Digital. We used to, when Math Kit 2 first came out many, many moons ago, there was a set that had all of those other things like the playing cards and the measuring cups and measuring spoons and string and post-it notes, just all of that. But we found people didn't want it. Uh, and because by the time your child gets to fourth grade, most people have accumulated all of that stuff already. Um, and so we've simply just pared it down and then added the unit cubes because we did also find that sometimes we were seeing a lot of customers when they got to Math Kit 2 also ordering the pack of unit cubes. So we've just gone ahead and included that. So for Math Kit 2, you just have those two options, physical or digital. And if you love ebooks, the digital option is really nice because you're getting the MP3s of the songs. You have uh, printable shape nets. You have printable decimal fraction chips. The one physical material that you would need would be the 3D geometric shapes, as well as the unit cubes for geometric modeling. But if you already have Math Kit 1 and haven't lost most of your unit cubes, if your children haven't mixed those in with the giant Lego bin, then you can use those for your geometric modeling along with the digital kit. So the digital kit is a great money saving option, if you like ebooks. And then also with the PDFs of the lesson books, you can use those with a PDF annotator app such as Notability, which if you have Apple products, you already have that. There are tons of different PDF annotator apps available out there, either free or low cost, that'll enable the student to be able to color, draw, write, type right into that PDF file and even eliminate the need for pretty much most printing, unless, of course, the student is going to need to cut something. Uh, let's see. Well, it looks like we have covered all of those questions. It has been an honor to have you here with me today.